Дорогие коллеги, благодарю вас, что нашли сегодняшнее время.
Dear colleagues, thank you for taking time to meet and join us at the SiGMA Roadshow we are holding in Ukraine. I would like to introduce you to our audience. So, today we are with Mr. Anton Kochukhidze, the head of the Public Gambling Association of Ukraine, Andrey Astapov, partner of the law firm Eterna Law, and Mikhail Koval, Vice President of the Ukrainian Association of Bookmaking. Dear colleagues, we have only 20 minutes, and I would like to ask you a few questions on the topic of today's panel, which is new opportunities for betting and sports betting in Ukraine. And the first question I would like to ask Andrey Astapov. How will casinos and other types of entertainment develop after the recent changes in Ukrainian legislation?
Изменений в законодательстве Украины. Расскажите, пожалуйста.
Colleagues, hello everyone. First of all, I would like to say we are full of optimism regarding further events related to the opening of the market. As you know, the law has been passed. Licensing conditions have been approved by the Cabinet of Ministers for most type of games. So far, licensing conditions have not been approved for B2B licenses and lotteries only. For all other types of games, there are licensing conditions, and accordingly, the main process has begun, the process of issuing licenses by a commission. So, 3 licenses for online casinos have already been issued, and there are the first permits for placement offline. And the market perceives this is a very positive development. Legally, there are no preconditions that would not allow the Commission to issue licenses for betting activities. But so far, not a single license has been issued, and in our opinion, this is simply due to the imperfection of the applications submitted. We know that only one application has been submitted, and most likely, we expect the first license for bookmaking to be issued in the near future. There is the problem of the tax law that remains, which has not yet been adopted in the new edition. But according to our information, next week, the relevant committee will consider the text of the tax law, and most likely it will shift. In addition, there is still a problem with certification, in which we also observe significant movements. Therefore, we are absolutely positive about the launch of the market.
Абсолютно мы в позитиве по поводу запуска рынка.
Andrey, thank you very much. Dear colleagues, maybe you have something to add to this? Anton? Mikhail?
Exhaustively.
Отлично. Тогда,
Great. Then since it's exhaustive, the next question will be for you, Anton. Of course, we will talk about sports betting. What is the main challenge in obtaining a license to carry out this particular type of activity? And in your opinion, which of the companies will receive the first license?
получит первую лицензию.
Я бы хотел пожелать всем претендентам на...
I would like to wish that all license applicants will receive it fast and without any problems. As for bookmaking, as Mr. Andrey has already stated correctly, one application was indeed submitted for bookmaking. And this is strange, because it's no secret to anyone that there have always been 2 bookmaker giants in Ukraine. I think that our colleague from the Association of Bookmakers will tell us about this in more detail. Nevertheless, according to my information, another company is going to focus more on the opening of slot machine halls, including considering the possibility of working in the casino segment. In any case, I wish everyone good luck. Now, returning specifically to your question, what I managed to find out is that one of the problems with considering a bookmaker's license is checking the origin of the funds. Ukraine has very high taxes and high license costs. And regarding bookmaking, we can say that this is one of the most expensive licenses in the world. There are not many European countries in Western Europe, I do not count the Russian Federation, can say their betting license costs more than $10 million. Accordingly, This is a very huge amount, and I do not know how the company formed the evidence of the origin of these funds.
Опять же, в Украине очень высокие налоги, высокие лицензии, и вот касательно букмекерства можно сказать, что одна из самых высоких стоимостей лицензий в мире. То есть мало европейских стран, Западной Европы, я сейчас не беру Российскую Федерацию, да, могут сказать о том, что у них лицензия на беттинг стоит там больше 10 миллионов долларов. Соответственно, это очень громадная сумма, и я не знаю...
But it is obvious that even checking these funds of the authorized capital and the bank guarantee is a laborious work, not to mention getting to other mandatory documents for the license package. But checking accounts, funds, it is very important for the Commission to avoid any misunderstandings. Again, literally today at one of the conferences, Boris Baum said that most likely there would be no other problems. It is just the nature and specificity of Ukrainian bookmaking in terms of the cost of a license and funds verification and so on. As for the development of bookmaking, we can say that in any case, bookmakers in Ukraine will continue to occupy very strong positions. It's elementary, but when you watch the Football Premier League, half of the teams are sponsored by Parimatch and the other half by FaveBet. Well, in fact, that's the whole market. Although in Ukraine there were problems with the other three companies, traditionally it is believed that in Ukraine only Parimatch and Favorite. There are three more companies, but I will not go into that detail.
В любом случае, букмекеры в Украине будут занимать и дальше очень сильные позиции. Ну, элементарно, когда смотришь футбольную премьер-лигу, то там половина команд, их спонсорами является Parimatch, другая половина команд это FaveBet. Ну, по сути, вот весь рынок. Хотя в Украине также были проблемы и с другими тремя компаниями. Ну, традиционно, да, по классике считается, что в Украине только Parimatch и Фаворит. Но есть еще три компании, называть особо не буду, да, но которых...
Мне тоже называйте.
No, name them.
Я воздержусь. Есть еще три компании, которых уличили в организации...
I'll reframe. There are three more companies that were caught organizing amateur sports and some other incomprehensible events, and then they made bets on sports illegal. Recently, there was a whole journalistic investigation on one of the resources in Ukraine. But again, I think that the legalization of the gambling business, as we see under the first license for Parimatch and online casinos, has opened the opportunity for the bookmaker to transform into top companies such as Paddy Power or Betfair. Once it began as a purely betting story, and in 2019 this campaign for $151 million bought 51% of Ajara-Bet casinos. I think that legalization gives this impetus and trends for the development of bookmaking.
В 2019 году данная компания за $151 миллион купила 51% казино Ajara-Bet. И я думаю, что вот легализация как раз букмекерству дает вот этот толчок, и тенденции, скажем, кулуарно, я тоже знаю, что вот как раз-таки они смотрят на разные сферы, это не будет сугубо там компании, которые будут заниматься только беттингом. Поэтому я думаю, что это позитив для государства, больше рабочих мест.
These will not be purely companies that will only engage in betting. I think this is a positive moment for the state. More jobs, more taxes, more license fees, more responsible gaming. I hope that all operators will proceed from financial integrity and decency in organizing their business and in organizing work with winnings and with players and so on. Therefore, the perspectives are good. Time will show who will use it and how, but it is obvious that the betting companies will be like the big Paddy Power or Betfair. One more important detail that I would like to add at the end. Through various consultants, I communicate with betting companies from Western Europe. They are worried about what will happen to the taxes at the moment. Misunderstandings of the tax history in Ukraine. Everyone says there will be change. But what we have today, 18%, is too much on a Western bookmaker. So they are waiting for a decision on the tax history. And Western large companies, perhaps after the end of this tax epic, will more actively come to our market. Because out of 30 interested in various types of gambling, in fact, this license was not submitted for any Western powerful large company. This is of great interest. Someone hires lawyers, someone communicates with political consultants, someone with PR, but there is no direct readiness before tax decisions are made. Therefore, I would advise in the Verkhovna Rada to stop listening to noises from shadow traders and lottery players and to adopt an adequate tax bill and give a second impetus to the flow of money from gambling to the country's budget. Thank you.
Вот прямой до решения налогов нет. Поэтому я бы советовал бы Верховной Раде все-таки перестать слушать лобби теневиков и лотерейщиков и все-таки принять адекватный налоговый законопроект и дать второй толчок прихода денег от азартных игр в бюджет страны. Спасибо.
Антон, спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, Anton. Just today, a bit earlier, we discussed at one of our panels, including during a Boris Baum's speech, the topic of the tax code.
И как раз обсуждали тему по налоговому кодексу. И действительно, насколько стало понятно из того, что...
Indeed, as far as it became clear that next week there will be the first meeting to resolve this issue for at least the initial stage of finding a solution, and yet are the prospects for a foreign operator really constrained today only by the absence of clear taxes?
Иностранного оператора, для иностранного инвестора. Можно буквально пару ваших комментариев, помимо БВИНа и помимо других организаций, действительно ли сдерживает на сегодняшний день только отсутствие четких налогов?
Налоги ключевое.
Taxes. Consultants say that they cannot calculate the final cost of the business plan without taxes. On average, they expect to invest from 5 to 7 years, and without taxes, their mathematics does not converge. This is a classic part of developing a business plan.
Ничего нового, сверхкардинального.
There are also a few more issues. Inquiries and questions come from the West about how the certification will take place. And the second question they are interested in, too, is what to do with the servers. What should be stored in Ukraine? Is it possible to have servers abroad? These three aspects are key for them today. But the most important thing is the tax history, because the state will be able to regulate everything else, and the market will make its own amendments, and together with you, dear Denis, we have created working groups. Everything is regulated, but taxes are still at the level of parliament, political decisions, positive and negative lobbyists. Therefore, this raises more unpredictability and questions than the same question about certification or servers.
Парламента, политического решения, там позитивных и негативных лоббистов, поэтому вот это вызывает больше непредсказуемости и вопросов, нежели тот же вопрос там сертификации или серверов.
Спасибо большое, Антон.
Thank you very much, Anton. Great answer. And I would like to move on to the third question, to the highlight of today's panel discussion, and to Mikhail Koval. Michael, please answer the question. Land-based or online? Parry match or favbet?
Земля или онлайн? Париматч или фавбет?
Смотрите, отцами основателями
The founding fathers of the All-Ukrainian Union for the Development of Bookmaking were two representatives, the Favorite Company and the Parimatch Company. Therefore, it is like yin and yang, land-based or online. Online is now developing, and when the organizers of gambling bookmakers look at the licensing conditions, of course, for the basic principle, they take a license online. Because for offline, the conditions were slightly complicated. I have already said many times that betting is a local story where a fan of one football team to bet for the team that plays in his hometown and so on. This is not a story about residents and hotel visitors, but about betting and its ratings in hotel. Now everything is developing, technologies are developing, as well as so-called betting shops. It is the latter that do not suit hotel owners, because they may not correspond to the betting shops of those international companies that enter the hotel to open there. Of course, the basis is now online. I think that offline would not die, but at least it needs a transformation, because betting in hotels is real and possible, but not to the same extent. It is necessary to limit betting or betting shops to certain strict conditions. For example, to set restrictions on spaces, on the number of staff, on investments in the economy, on social obligations. But all the same, it is necessary to make changes through the laws. Finally, the law has been passed and the market has launched all this. It's the most important.
Ограничивать определенными какими-то там жесткими условиями, допустим, ставить ограничения по квадратуре, по количеству персонала, по инвестициям в экономику, по социальным обязательствам. Тогда понятно, почему, допустим, преференцию дать беттингу не только в отелях. Но это все равно все через законы. Необходимо вносить изменения. На данное время очень позитивно и правильно, потому что наконец-то закон принят и рынок запустился. Это самое важное.
And betting in small steps with its own nuances started, and this is no longer a reversible process. The absence of a games ban has already been passed. Therefore, legislators will probably come to someday withdraw betting shops from hotels, but with certain restrictions. Then maybe offline will live. At hotels, there is no such prospect outside of hotels, therefore online for now. Offline shouldn't forget about it. Sports betting. I would like to raise an issue. Everyone knows the law of the legalization of gambling, and this law also comes in contact with the law to prevent the influence of corruption offenses on the results of official sports competitions. There are certain prohibitions that athletes and sports personnel should not place bets on competitions in which they participate. The adoption of the law is a step towards the fact that it is contractual games. Games with a deliberately fixed result will disappear. Law enforcement officers have a mechanism for cooperation with local betting operators when law enforcement officers have the right to make a request to receive information if there are certain suspicions about a particular operator.
Не должен ставить ставки на соревнования, в которых он участвует. И вот принятие закона это делает шаг к тому, что именно договорные игры с заведомо фиксированным результатом, у правоохранителей появляется механизм сотрудничества с локальными беттинговыми операторами, которые правоохранители имеют право сделать запрос, получить информацию, если есть там определенные подозрения на именно к конкретному оператору, а не писать куда-то.
Я извиняюсь, Михаил, что я вклиниваюсь.
I'm sorry, Mikhail. I remember a few years ago in Ukraine, they even tried to create an organization that would deal with the prevention and monitoring of fixed matches, at least in the domestic market of Ukraine. In domestic football matches, this was specifically related to football. I remember that Mr. Francesco Barranca was invited. He's an Italian specialist in sports betting, specifically on football. Are you talking about something like that? Do you expect something like this to be created?
Специалист по ставкам на спорт, конкретно по футболу. Вы о чем-то подобном говорите? Что вы ожидаете, что будет что-то подобное создано в Украине?
Франческо Баранко, по-моему, до сих пор...
As far as I know, Francesco Barranca is still in Ukraine and still continues to work in the Football Federation or perhaps in the Committee on Ethics and Fair Play. This is his committee, which he may not even head anymore. It is very difficult to work in the fair betting market if there is no law and no legal field. There was no legislation 5 years ago. And what kind of match fixing can we talk about if there is no tool for obtaining information? Therefore, FederBet, headed by Francesco Barranca, cooperates with various federations.
Который возглавляет Франческо Баранко, он сотрудничает с разными федерациями. Поэтому как бы был приглашен опыт европейский, он что-то делал, наверное.
That is why the European experience was invented. He probably did something, maybe he sent some requests. But the practical implementation was weak because they had nowhere to go. The market illegal. Now, with the presence of a license, it is legally possible for local law enforcement agencies to write requests to local operators with a local license with a specific location, and so on. And then, of course, they will receive information. Bookmakers should only focus on the fair way of accepting bets. Therefore, I think that here it is also necessary, when we talk about sports betting, to remember this side. And also, besides sport betting, there are various types of betting. Bets can be made on any events in real time, which no one can influence.
Кроме спортивного есть разный беттинг, потому что беттинг может на любое событие принимать, которое в реальном времени и на которое влиять не может.
И благо у нас для этого есть закон.
Да, это самое важное.
Господа, я вынужден нас прерывать, заканчивать. Спасибо вам большое за ваше время.
And thank God we have a law for this. Well, gentlemen, let's finish. Thank you very much for your time, for your expertise. This is important not only for us, for companies that organize large events, locally or on the world stage, but it is also very important for those people who come to listen to us and for themselves to learn the most basic principles that they might need for a possible exit or entry into the Ukrainian market. I really hope that the Regulatory Commission will pay a lot of attention and find a way to deal with taxation. On the part of our Expert Advisory Council, we will try to facilitate this. On the part of the working groups, as Anton mentioned, we will help improve and speed up the issues of resolving difficult situations that may arise or have already arisen. Thank you very much.
Ускорению вопроса решения сложных ситуаций, которые могут возникать, либо же уже возникли. И в целом, спасибо вам большое.